Okay, so maybe that didn't show up, so let's try again. This is my 8 foot by 2 foot by 2 foot kiln. I dried these boards in here, and take a look at this. I ran this through my dad's joiner. Got one edge joined, one face joined, and I'm going to buy a planer and clean up the other face. And I got these other boards here. These are all sterilized boards we're going to use for his shelves, but we're going to use that plywood there instead, just because of timing and things like that. So I did sterilize those boards, 140 degrees for 3 or 4, 5 hours, core temperature 140 degrees. I did that in my kiln. But it's time for my kiln to go outside because my grandkids need the space back in the wintertime to play. So my long-term goal for my kiln has changed a little bit, but I'm just going to take you through a very brief long-term view of what I'm heading for. So I would like to have a modular, portable, wood-fired, what's the right word? It's capable as well as electric heat, but also wood-fired. So portable meaning I have to be able to move it. Like I want it out of the basement. Maybe sometimes I want it to be in the garage if I'm doing some type of work, drying, baking things, baking painted things, whatever. I make projects for my grandkids. Sometimes I might want it out by the sawmill for drying wood, kiln drying wood. Maybe I want to move it over by the fire pit if I'm going to use firewood to heat it. So I want it to be able to be portable, be able to be moved. I want it to be modular because this is 8 foot long and includes the heater in here, but I'd like it to be like a 6 foot long piece that I can add another 6 foot if I needed to do 12 foot. Like those just fit in there, all right? But if I had longer ones, I'd like it to be 12 foot long. But if I don't need it 12 foot long, I'd rather have it 6 foot long because it uses less energy. And I was doing some doors and things, and we had some 2.5 foot wide panels which won't fit in there. So I'd like to put like a 6 foot and a 6 foot over here. Then I'd have a 4 foot by 6 foot area. So I want it to be modular, and then I can reconfigure it as for whatever project I'm working on. And the wood fired option is, an electric heater for what, or even a dehumidifier at points I'm going to put in here. I'd like to use a dehumidifier, as well as a modified electric space heater for certain situations, and for high temperature, longer runs, whatever, I'd like to use some firewood, because I have a whole bunch of firewood out back that I really don't use for anything else. So I figure if I use it for wood drying my sawmill wood, then I'd use up some of that wood. But I don't want it to be just firewood, because like fire goes out, if I'm going to be gone for a while, I want the electric heater to be working. But if I have been available, I'd like it to be wood fired and not use the electric. So my sawmill is 23 inches wide. So the widest board I could cut would be 23. So it would fit in a 2 foot wide, in theory, fit inside a 2 wide. Most of my stuff is like 15 inches or less. A lot of it's 6 inches, 8-inch boards, 10-inch boards, 12-inch boards. So there's, I'd like it to be able to dry lumber, use it as a dehumidifier, and then to be able to use heat to sterilize and heat to dry it to what we need. And now take a look at this, and I'm going to explain all this. It's a lot of talking, but it'll make sense in a bit. So here's some welding project I'm working on. I got a couple of collars that goes onto this bar. That's going to be a receiver for my trailer. And I paint, this is a second coat of black Rust-Oleum. And what I like to do is in summertime, in July and August, I like to paint these outside because the fumes, like I have my fan running all night long because I don't want the fumes in the house from Rust-Oleum oil-based paint. So I would normally paint them outside in the summertime, and then like a nice sunny July, August day, like I put this stuff out in the sun for like 4 hours, like 10 to 2, it gets baked, right? It's like, I don't know, 120, 104. It's hard to pick up with your hands, right? You got to, ouch, it hurts. So I like to bake these things. When I'm done, it makes a really durable finish, at least I have found. It makes a very durable finish for my use. So obviously it is it's end of December. Tomorrow is gonna be like 15 degrees in a snowstorm. I'm not putting it outside to bake, right? So I'd like to be able to put these pieces in my kiln, and I'd only need the 6-foot section, right? And then turn it up to like 140 for 5 hours, 4 hours, whatever, and let it bake. But then I also have the issue of outgassing. Like I don't want this in my basement. I want it like out in the garage. So all the off-gassing will go out there, or I have to vent this outside while I'm doing it. And just to ramble, this plywood here is part of my son's, we're building a shelf system in his front room. It's 12 foot long, goes wall to wall, and this is going to be like cut in half. So we're going to get 4 foot long, 1 foot wide, 4 shelves we're going to make out of this, and then we're going to stain it and polyurethane it. And again, the staining and the polyurethane smells up my house, so I have to do it at my workshop and leave the fan running. I'd rather take this out like in the garage or outside, put the pieces in here, put some temperature to it, and just let it dry out there. And then I also like to bake my finish on these for a few hours up pretty warm to get it all really set and off-gassed before we get it over to my son's house so it doesn't smell up his house. So those are kind of the projects I have going. And there is another near-term project. These boards here were going to be for my one son's shelf system, but we're making it out of plywood. But my other son got a miter saw for Christmas, compound miter saw from his wife, and he wants to make some shelves, and these 4-inch boards would be just right, but I need to plane them down. I did join a face and an edge on my dad's joiner in the garage. That's just because of where it is. It's old and super heavy, and it has like a horsepower motor on it or something. And I'm gonna order a planer so I can plane these down to 3/4, and then I'm gonna give those to him. But he needs more than that, so I'm gonna go get some more wood from my other son's house and cut it on my sawmill, and then I have to put it in here to sterilize it before I join and plane it and give it to him to use his miter saw to make the shelves he wants. So this is just like a rambling video, so you know, like just cut out anytime you want. But so here's my ponderance. Like I have all these grandiose ideas for how this thing I'd ideally like it to be modular. This piece here, that piece there, dehumidifier, heater, fire piece, whatever. But I know my end goal. I don't know how it's going to get there. I don't know what it looks like next. So I'm thinking I kind of a long-term view, but I'm going to start in the short term and just keep modifying it until it gets to being something that's like really generally useful. So I need to get this thing modular, get it out of my basement and outside, and then I can dry the paint pieces the pieces I painted, and I can dry these shelves when we make them, hopefully this week. Yeah, so that's gonna be, I think, my goal is to see how I can make this modular, like make side, bottom, make some type of top, and then it has to have either a slanted or an A-frame top to keep the rain and the snow off of it. And I'm going to work towards that to do what it takes to get this thing as is outside. And my thought is, this is only half-inch. You can see this is only half-inch foam board. It's the insulation and it's the structural wall, right? So it's not, it's just taped together with packing tape. Amazingly strong for how it was put together, but it was just a prototype to see if I could even get the kiln to the temperature I needed. So I'm thinking, just like they build space structures, I think it needs to be at least 2, if not 3, and a structural wall, like a structural wall that will support a roof and a snow load, and then a inner wall that is the foam and the heat part and the airflow part. Yeah, so that's my thought. I don't have many more thoughts than that, except I think I just need to get started in some direction and see where it goes. All right, so after pondering with all kinds of little pieces of wood, I have decided that what hinders my progress is I'm trying to build a final version before I know what it is I want. So I've decided that I will use a bunch of small pieces of scrap wood, build a quarter scale model, and keep changing it till it gets close to what I think I want, and then I am much more confident and comfortable in building the full-size model, knowing I have worked through all the different scenarios with my model, instead of building a big piece and say, oh, no, I gotta take it apart. Oh, I cut this one too short, I should have made it longer. So I'm gonna do all that with this, and that is the part for me that I really enjoy, is like the creativity of just trying different things, not having to be so fearful of making the wrong choice. Just, I don't know, feels like I should glue these like this, and we'll see what happens. And I'm gonna not use nails or screws. I think I'm gonna use hot glue. I don't know, see what happens. Okay, so this is quarter scale. This would be 3 foot, and this would be 6 foot. It's actually a little 3 inches too short because I miscut these pieces. I didn't want to waste it. But this would be a double track system, and I think we're going to build another one, and we can see how we can connect them in different directions. All right, so 2 different versions, but these are 6 foot by 3 foot, 6 foot by 3 foot. If we wanted to put them end to end, we could put alignment pieces. I think a little bit longer actually. Just a little bit longer. We could use like a 2 by 4 and then align them, which would help with leveling. This would bolt, 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 and there would be another one here, but they don't line up. So that would get us 12 foot, and that would help to align so we can level, so it's straight, not necessarily support. And if we wanted to make it side by each, we could put like so. And we could put it bolt, 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 and then that would help to align it this way. We'll probably have to, you know, shim with some blocks, whatever, because the ground is never completely level, but that would make this level. That would help with alignment. Then we could have a 6 foot by 6 foot, but take 6 inches off the ends for walls. And what's the other tracks for? Well, to get this aligned, let's align it this way. And that's our peg to align. Those are alignment track. Either this track or this track. This would be pegs for the wall, where you slide the wall down. Right, so there'd probably be, you know, more of them or whatever, right? But this would be 2 foot high. So once we get the base lined up, then we could slide a wall in to these 2 tracks like that, so it just pops right down, all aligned. And then another one on this side. And I'm not quite sure about the ends yet, whether we're gonna make walls like that, but then that's going to cut down 6 inches, so I'd have to extend it out, or we'll make an end cap where, you know, if these are together, then you don't need an end wall. But over here we could make an end wall section that slides in and bolts, maybe. Anyways, that's where I'm at. And then I have to think about, you know, 2 foot high walls and then some type of sloping roof somehow, which then impacts the end wall. Yeah, but that's where I'm at. My brain's kind of fried, but I sure enjoy just tinkering instead of just thinking. I like to do. So this is fun.